Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and I am excited because today I get to do a first impressions of a cool new product, and that is the RAAL Requisite CA-1a circumaural ribbon headphone system, a product that is brand new to the market. It launched earlier this month here in August 22, as far as I know, and a friend of the channel was gracious enough to order one of these and have it shipped directly to my house, so I got a brand new in-the-box pair to do a full review of. But this is not yet the full review. This is the first impressions, but I figured you would all be curious about it and want to know more, so let's dive into this one here briefly. So what is it? So as I said, this is a circumaural, meaning around the ear headphone that is from RAAL. Now you may remember RAAL from the SR-1a ribbon earfield speaker system, which are those kind of, Doctor Who Cyberman looking things, contraptions that basically held two small ribbon speakers right next to your ear, and you could move them in and out to adjust the sound staging and that sort of thing. Okay, so this is a little sibling model to that, which puts it in a more headphone-like form factor. And you can see, like right out of the bat, it does look like a headphone. The build is still very much like the SR-1a in terms of like the headband here, the suspension strap system, and this leather strap with the bolts, or not bolts, or the studs here through the leather strap holes there and that sort of thing. Like it's very reminiscent in that way in terms of that. But the big change here is that we have a full ear cup now with ear pads here that hold these on the side of your head a lot more like a headphone does. All right, and so yeah, I mean that's what it is, and there are a couple of things that are interesting about that we have to talk about there as well. So this is still a ribbon driver system. It uses RAAL's ribbons. Okay, and so the impedance, and even though on RAAL's website they haven't listed any specs yet, the impedance of the old SR-1a was only 6 ohms, which does not pair well with most headphone amps. So a cool thing that RAAL has done here is they have developed this little transformer box, which really looks like and feels like a power brick, on a lot of power cord, power supply kinds of things, but it's not, okay? Because what this is an impedance transformer, sort of, okay? They call it a toroidal transformer ribbon headphone amplifier in interface, okay? And it's the TI-1b here. And so what this does is it basically changes the impedance of the headphone system here from what, again, I don't know the exact number, but the old ribbons were 6 ohms. So I imagine this is somewhere near that. We'll probably find out for sure in the near future whenever RAAL publishes that. But then transforms it into either a 16 ohm or a 32 ohm load. Oops, sorry. Okay, right here, so that you can power these off of basically any reasonably powerful headphone amp that has a 4-pin balanced XLR headphone output on it. And the way they make that work is they give you this short little patch cable that has 2 4-pin XLR connectors on it. And so you plug one end of this cable into your headphone amp's balanced headphone out, and then you plug the other end into either the 32 ohm or the 16 ohm input on this thing, right? And then that basically presents either a 16 ohm or 32 ohm load to your amplifier, which is where most headphone amplifiers are more comfortable operating in that range too. I have found this device to work really well so far. I've tried powering these off of my Vielectric HPA V281, and I also have a Ferrum Ore and Hypsos stack in for review, and I've tried these off of that, and this worked fine off of both of those amps and all that. So I want to congratulate RAAL a little bit, because I think this little gizmo is really handy and opens up a lot of doors for people being able to try ribbon headphones that weren't opened before, because like trying a ribbon headphone often meant having to get a special amp and all of that, and that just made the barrier to get into ribbon headphones that much higher because you weren't just buying a ribbon headset, you also had to buy special amps usually. Okay, other build stuff. The cable that comes with it, the stock cable is pretty nice. We have the standard, you know, RAAL and most ribbons do this, where you have the female 4-pin XLR connector on the amp end, and so that goes into this port of the transformer box. And then we have a dual 3.5 millimeter TRRS pair of connections here on the headphone end right there. Okay, now the other build thing that I want to talk about, you know, again, so this is like a headphone in that they put ear pads on this that can completely seal around the ear. Okay, that's one set of headphones, or pads, excuse me. The other set of pads look more like this, where they intentionally break the seal at the top and at the bottom. Now both sets of pads here are thicker in the back and narrower in the front, so they are angled pads to help with some of the sound staging and all of that. But this one intentionally breaks the seal, and then these are intentionally sealed. So to my ear real quick, the sound signatures here, again, first impressions, these pads sound more like the old SR-1A, that kind of a frequency response and that kind of a presentation. These sound more like headphones and answer the question, what if RAAL could do bass? Okay, here it is. Now, from a build perspective, and I think this is going to be a fair criticism, the material of these pads, I mean, it's just foam. It's like, I mean, it's a nice foam, but it's not even finished with a leather or a pleather or a velour or, you know, alcantara or any kind of finishing material. It is literally just the foam. And then both pads are like this. You just get this plastic ring on the back. Now this looks like Velcro that could stick to the headphone. It isn't, okay? What happens here, I can show you real quick, is you just push this down a little bit, okay? Kind of squeeze it down. Maybe, there it goes, okay? And it pops on and off of these like two little hook notch things like right here. Okay, the top here and the bottom here just hook right into place, okay, on those things. So there's like no snapping, there's no, you know, putting a leather flap, making sure that that fits all the way around or anything like that. It's just literally pop it in. Of course, I try to do this on camera and it looks harder. There it goes. Just pop it in, pop it out that way. Now, the pads work fine, they just look and feel cheap. That would be one complaint here. Now, I understand RAAL has been working hard to try to find pads that work for this, and like this is what they've come up with so far. Hopefully we get a little bit higher quality pad, because I don't know if I mentioned the price on this yet. I may not have. For the headset, the two sets of pads, and this transformer box, it's $2,500 US. And so this level of pad quality on a $2,500 product just feels a little, yeah, right? It doesn't feel great. Okay. Sound impressions. I did most of my listening with the full circumaural pads here because, again, these to me sound like the old RAAL, and I reviewed the old RAAL and the SR-1A anyway, and I could put a link down to that, but these to me sound a lot like that. I thought the old RAAL sound had some real strengths, great detail, great staging, imaging, separation, that kind of thing, but no sub bass really to speak of. And to me that kind of marred the overall experience. So I find these pads much more interesting. Okay, by the way, I will notice real quick, because of those plastic rings in there, that crinkling sound you hear in there is the plastic rings. So just be aware that that happens with these guys. Okay. So the full circumaural pads here, you do get a more headphone-like than speaker-like presentation, which, I mean, we're headphone listeners. For most of us, that's okay. The bass really does come out, though, and these can do sub-bass that is really deep. It is very present, like it does. It really does not roll off much at all. It really digs down deep. And there's a fair amount of presence to it, but it does it with great texturing and resolution and detail in the low end. It also has a fairly healthy amount of slam and physicality and that sort of thing. It's not going to hit you like a Fostex or a Focal or not quite an Audeze, but if you're familiar with like how hard hi-fi mins can hit, we're at about in that territory, I think, okay, which is a really big marked difference from the SR-1A and its open baffle design. The overall sound signature with these, I think, is more warm. I do have a bit of a quibble, and I think that these pads, I didn't notice it so much with these pads, but I didn't listen all that much here. But with these pads, I thought the mid-range, the shoutiness region comes out just a little bit, and it can make vocals sound just a little bit shouty, honky, and that sort of thing at times. That could be a driver break-in thing. Again, these are brand new in the box, and I haven't put them through a rigorous break-in process yet, but I will do that soon and before the full review for sure. But I am noticing that, so maybe that will go away, maybe it won't. But otherwise, the resolution, the imaging and the separation, and even the soundstage has some good size to it. Not huge, but it's rather big. Even with these pads, those spatial presentation elements are exquisite so far. Like, they are really standing out. It's getting a really holographic presentation there. And then minus that slight mid-forwardness that I'm noticing, I think the timbre is also really natural sounding in it so far too. Two words keep coming to mind as I think about these things here, and I think accessibility is one of them. Because of this transformer box and the lower price, like $2,500 for the set here, which I realize for some is still a lot, but in the grand scheme of audio, not ridiculous, right? Like, it's accessible. These are ribbon headphones, ribbon headsets that more people will be able to try because the added price of an amp won't be there creating an extra barrier. You can just get one of these, and this is working really well so far. The other thing that comes to mind is value, because already I am detecting that the resolution and the spatial performance and some other technicalities and all of that are punching above its price point. I don't know how high yet because I haven't done a whole lot of A/B, but these are sounding pretty stunningly good so far, and I've enjoyed listening to them a lot, minus that slight bit of shoutiness in the mids with these pads that may or may not go away. We will see for the full review. But I am liking what I hear so far. And I think, you know, other than the cheap pads, RAAL has quite possibly a hit product on their hands. Okay, again, these are first impressions. I reserve the right to change my mind on these, walk back some of these claims, you know, all of these sorts of things. But the 3 or 4 days that I have had to listen to these off and on when I get a chance to, I have enjoyed them a lot. All right, I will leave it there for these first impressions. I am Wave Theory. This has been my first impressions of the RAAL CA-1a circumaural ribbon headphone set. And yeah, see my reviews of previous RAAL products in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching and enjoy the music.